I'm thinking about love again, and I'm thinking that what we are taught that love is so far from the truth it's not funny. And it's a revelation to me, but this is just what I'm thinking and feeling in the present moment. It's going to change and evolve. There are other times where I've talked a lot about love and shared a lot of things that have already changed. But what I'm noticing is that what I personally believed the experience of love was all about maybe was incorrect. And I'm going to share some things that I've been looking into in this moment and try to make some sense of it for myself, and maybe other people that are watching will also have some insights. So one interesting podcast that I listened to, something stood out, and it was that we are taught to believe that codependency is love, basically. Probably paraphrasing that. And, you know, we're shown images of romantic love in the movies, in books, and all of these, like, places where we're learning about what love is. We're shown basically an image that is incorrect. Not that there's any right or wrong way to love, but I'm realizing that there's many different forms of connection that are available, and what I was calling love was one of the most unhealthy forms of connection imaginable. I was under the impression that love was supposed to be that lightning bolt that strikes you and you're never the same person ever again, and this other person that you meet becomes instantly or like very rapidly so significant in your life, and there's this special bond between you that's almost cosmic, like it's meant to be, you know, that whole story that's not unfamiliar. Like, even if you've never lived it or looked for it, you're aware of it. Like, maybe you avoided it because it sounds so unhealthy, or, you know, it just sounds full on. Like, I'm not going to expose myself to that kind of experience. That sounds like it's just going to be overwhelming. And you would be correct in assuming that. So I bought into that idea from like society and culture, that love was supposed to be this kind of like overwhelming, codependent kind of experience. And then as I'm growing older and I'm looking back in hindsight and I'm seeing that, like, when you place that much significance on a relationship or on another person, and you are having an experience that's that transformational, like it's affecting you, it's changing who you are as a person on every level, and the other person's going through that too. I've been kind of comparing that with the influence of drugs. And this might be controversial or weird, or just like you don't even want to hear this, but I've been thinking about like the effect of this kind of needy, codependent, I'm also going to use the word romantic love, although like romance is still beautiful. But this passionate, like, it's just all passion and desire and just intensity. Like, that's what we're taught love is. Like, that's the real deal, you know, when it really gets inside of every fiber of your being, and like there's no undo button. You're just like on this journey now once you've met this person, and that feeling is stirred inside of you. It's like a drug addiction. Maybe not. Like, don't take anything on. But the reason why this is surfacing in my awareness is because I've been reading books about love and relationships and things, because that's the domain that I'm focusing on at the moment. And they've actually done studies where they've done the whole fMRI scans, and like the brain lights up with infatuation and romantic love, similar to somebody who's on cocaine or amphetamines. And there was another study that I was looking at where they realized the brain of a person that's falling in love and the brain of a person with OCD look very similar on those scans as well. So they thought this would probably be quite controversial as a study as well, but they decided to try to treat love with a medication, like they treat OCD with the medication, or the effects of OCD. They mask the effects of OCD with the medication. And they found that if you got somebody with this medication that they treat OCD with early, like as soon as they met somebody that they started to have these intense feelings for, they could subdue those feelings for a short period of time, but after a certain point, like not long, like a week or two, I think it was. Again, like I'm not perfect with my memory of these different points. Take it all with a grain of salt. But yeah, like a week or two and love just takes over, or this, what they were calling love in the study, like what they were seeing on the brain scans that they were measuring, which was more like an infatuation or like an obsession. Like they're comparing the obsession of love with the obsession in obsessive compulsive disorder. And they also, the more interesting thing was, like, if you didn't treat this obsessive love early, after a week, like no amount of drugs on the planet could have any effect on the obsessive love. Like, I'm calling it obsessive love, they didn't call it that. They just called it romantic love. So I was reading that, and I've been thinking these things myself, because I've been single for the longest period of time in my life and been spending a lot of time with myself. But when I do date, I still find myself seeking out that 0 to 100 kind of experience. Like, I want to meet someone who really gets me going, like on all levels. And you know, there's attraction, there's intimacy, there's deep conversations. Like, you feel like you've known this person your whole life, we could be soulmates, like that whole narrative. And yeah, I've sort of been learning by observing myself, and then there's been a few where it's just been really relaxing and pleasant, and there hasn't been that whole dramatic shift inside of me. And in the past, maybe I would have thought, oh, this isn't the one. Like, I think that's the trap that I want to express. Like, I feel like the idea that there's, you know, the one, that we're supposed to find this really transformational experience that we're supposed to have with a specific person on this planet, was a trap for me. And I'm actually learning that I can have a relationship, even like a short-term one, whatever, or friendships even, like all kinds of relationships that fill my cup so much, but it's like a gradual filling of the cup. It's not this like, let's put the whole ocean in the cup in a single instant and then try to maintain that level of passion for the rest of our lives together. You know, like, that's a bit psychologically revealing of how intense I have been and can be. But like, that's why I share this stuff, because it's real. Like, I'm having a real experience, and I'm learning these lessons, I'm having these insights, and maybe somebody else could see something in me that is a reflection of something inside of them, and that it brings awareness to it. And then it only takes like a little, like a moment of awareness to see yourself in a moment in time that's not serving you, to change it. Like, as soon as you go, wait a minute, like, that's maybe not the best way to live my life, you can instantly start to reimagine yourself, reimagine that dimension of your life. Like, what else could I be doing? Like, or even just the awareness that like I've been attracting these really high impact and high intensity relationships that are very transformational, thinking that it's a positive thing, but actually it's just like a drug, you know, like a strong drug where you take it and yeah, you have like a profound experience that feels life-changing, and you're like, wow, look at this. I've learned so much, I've grown so much, I'm evolving, but you're just in that euphoria, and that it's really like another form of escapism, in my opinion, looking at my own experiences, like where like normal life isn't good enough for me, so I go out and seek something like beyond reality, really. Like I was even doing that with love. And like even using the word love so loosely is probably triggering for some people, because you know, you might still be passionate about this stuff, you might still be looking for your soulmate, you might still be thinking that there is a transformational experience out there for me that is going to be filled with passion and intimacy and magic for our entire lives. Like, don't limit yourself, Kai, don't limit me. And I've been through all that. Like, it's probably even documented in these video diaries where I've said like, people have told me to stop looking for this like idealistic kind of relationship, or this really profound like, I think I used the words like, she ticks all my boxes and I tick all of her boxes. Like, that's the whole thing that I'm talking about. Like, we're programmed to believe that that's what we need, but just when I look at that now from this perspective, why does she have to tick all my boxes? Why do I have to tick all of her boxes? Why? It's as if I'm looking for somebody that can make the rest of like humanity redundant. Like, once I find this person, I don't need to interact with any other human beings. Like, that's the, when you really play with the idea of that idealistic relationship, that's where you end up. Like, why can't she just tick a couple of boxes, and then my mates that I go hiking with tick a couple other boxes, and like I find a way to complete my life myself, and no particular person needs to be like, how ridiculous of an expectation is that on another human being or on yourself to come at relationships with that perspective? Like, and I guess as I'm having these insights and I'm starting to think like, why am I looking for somebody that is everything to me? That's ridiculous. My social life has improved because now, instead of having these like really intense relationships or like encounters where I'm trying to find somebody that really meets all of my needs, and like, yeah, I feel so naked right now, just so you're aware, like so vulnerable. But yeah, it's the reality of what I've experienced. So naked. But there's just something so relaxing about meeting people and having like less intense relationships, like friendships and business relationships, all of it. Like, you're not just looking for this one person in any way. Like, it's I guess as well, like some of my earliest relationships were very deliberate and conscious escapism, because my teenage years were so uncomfortable and traumatic and just painful. I never wanted to be home. I never wanted to, like, I didn't want to be in the same room as my parents pretty much all the time. And I didn't want to be at school. Like, I didn't have anywhere to be. So my earliest relationships were like, find a girl and just get so involved with them in that relationship that you can kind of forget about the entire rest of the world. So that was like early escapism and like I can see how I've sort of carried that with me, and now I'm just having fun and enjoying myself, and just to leap to a whole different, maybe it's because I'm feeling naked and vulnerable, but just to change the subject a little bit, as I've now dropped those expectations and that programming around like finding the one and all of that, I'm actually attracting a different kind of person. Like, I'm attracting people who are carefree, they are relaxed, they are complete within themselves, they're happy within themselves, they've got a life that makes sense for them, they're just cruising along, and we can just contribute something to each other's lives and then go on with our day. Like, there's none of that codependent, needy subtext that is a part of like so many relationships. I don't know how many people this would actually be relevant to, but I think it would be a lot, like, because all of the movies, like all of the TV shows and everything that we're consuming, it's all about that kind of codependent relationship disguised as romantic love. And it's got to be like so important and so intense and so special, and it becomes the center of your universe. Like all the poetry that's written about love, all of the stories, even the artistic visual imagery, like it elicits this response of importance, and just like it's supposed to be this huge like transformational thing, and it is. Like, there is something beautiful about falling in love, like totally abandoning like yourself in pursuit of a union with another person. Like, you know, when you meet this person, you feel these feelings so intensely, so profoundly, that as you move towards them, you're both going to dissolve. Like, you're not going to be who you were at the end of that. And I've experienced it multiple times. Like, I've had powerful long-term relationships where we've shared so much that we've lost ourselves in each other, and that's why the relationship eventually breaks down. So it's not like I don't want to experience the full spectrum of what love can elicit within me, but I'm just being more responsible in my love use. You know, because I was relating it to drugs, in case like I don't know how my comedy lands, but like every now and then I'm like, oh man, I'm funny. I did a whole video once called Open Mic Comedy with myself, and it just ended up being like a regular video diary with like, it took the whole video diary just to get one piece of a joke out, and then I was like explaining myself, and it was this whole thing. There's whales out here, that's beautiful. It's like huge breaching whales like just in front of me while I'm sharing this. Oh, I've had some really big like powerful epiphanies lately, and it, like, I think a bit of a theme of it all is like, I thought I was kind of done with escapism, and then I'm finding like, oh, that's escapism, that's something that I don't want to face, that's a way that I'm avoiding my feelings and emotions, that's a way that I'm not addressing my conflict with this person. And like everything seems to, like, I'm in a hall of mirrors. Like if I express something in a video diary or I write something online, like I'm reading those words back or listening to those words back, and I'm going, man, that's advice for me. Like more than ever before. Like it always is. I'm more talking to myself than I'm talking to anybody else. But like lately it's just been, I cannot ignore it. It's like big neon signs, like you've got to deal with this, you've got to deal with that. Like, because I want to heal. I want to live a life where I feel totally free, and I'm experiencing what I'm creating, and there's not all this external stuff and old programming that I've taken on from society that's shaping me more than I'm shaping myself. I want to create my reality, you know? And I would love to do it with another person, but now I'm starting to realize that I'm just like growing up. I'm constantly realizing I'm growing up. Like I thought I was grown up, but I'm still so immature in all these different dimensions of life, and there's still so much to learn. And I'm really passionate about like building a really strong foundation before I go to the next level. Like I don't want to run into a bunch of stuff that I don't understand before I've made peace with the things that I'm trying to work out now. And sometimes it might seem like that's a really slow process, and maybe even like I'm going around in circles and I'm not achieving anything. But like when I zoom out and I look at it, the timeline of like the last 2 years, the last year, the last 6 months, or the last 10 years and go even bigger, like I can really see that the growth and progress that you don't feel necessarily in the present moment when you're dealing with something, and it feels like all encompassing. It feels like, it's not though. Like one thing that these video diaries have taught me is that it's so temporary. As long as I don't hold on to it, as long as I don't keep reproducing the same thing over again, like if I get into some kind of conflict and I do a video diary about it, and then I just keep engaging in that same kind of conflict over and over again, and I'm not actually getting a resolution, like then it doesn't feel temporary. That's why you feel stuck. You are stuck if you're not necessarily dealing with the same problem, but you're dealing with the same species of problem, the same variety of problem. If you're in that cycle where you just keep creating the same obstacles for yourself. And like in this particular moment in time, what I'm looking at is the obstacles that I created for myself in relationships. And it was all around the idea that love was this thing that maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. Maybe I'll totally change my mind tomorrow, because after all of this learning and evolving and growing and contemplating, I go like, oh, maybe that kind of love isn't healthy. Maybe it isn't for me. And then I walk over here after I finish recording this video and I run into the love of my life, and I can't stop it. Because that's one part of this whole love thing. When it gets in you, there's like nothing you can do to stop it. Like, I guess that the way that you could stop it is just go, wow, I feel a lot of feelings right now, and just run in the opposite direction. But why? How? I cannot imagine doing that if I felt something so powerful. But I guess back to the drug analogy and responsible love use. You can have a carton of beer on the table, and you can know that that carton of beer has the power to fuck you up, and still just have one beer. Like, you don't have to consume the whole experience in that instant that you realize it's available. You can take your time and explore this potential relationship with this person that's eliciting this powerful response within you. You don't have to consume all of that experience in one go. Like, you can practice responsible love use. That makes it sound kind of like manipulative, or just like it's like some kind of dirtiness to that phrase, but it is a joke. I am just playing. But that's where I'm at. I'm like just exploring myself. It's becoming a relationship with myself more than anything. Like, the more that I let go of this idea that there's somebody out there to complete me, not that I ever thought that they would complete me, but there's somebody out there that's just going to have this profound connection with me, and we're going to create something beautiful together. I've really come home to myself, and like, what do I want to create with myself? What kind of relationship do I want to have with me? Who do I want to be? Like what would make me really feel comfortable with myself and happy with myself, and just really enjoy myself, so that like if somebody does come along and they match with who I am in this moment, this is actually who I want to continue to be. I don't want to meet somebody and like they see this facade or this like whole thing going on that they're attracted to, or even like that whole trauma bonding type thing where somebody just sees like your chaos matches my chaos and together we can sort through our chaos. Don't want any of that kind of stuff so much anymore. Like, I just want to be good with me, go on my journey, keep growing, keep evolving, and keep contributing that's what I'm doing in this moment, sharing my thoughts and feelings. If you get anything out of these videos, please pass them on to anybody else you know who may benefit. You've got friends that are talking about similar topics, going through similar stuff. Send it to them as a message and they might just thank you. They might just say, this is what I needed today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you've listened this long, you're obviously getting some kind of value from this experience. Click the like button for me because that helps YouTube recommend the videos to people that have similar interests. And check out kylives.com if you want to know more about me and my bigger picture and what I'm here to do.